It's our pleasure to have you all here for our sixth episode of Innovation for Democracy Cafe. I will be your moderator today. My name is Yawei Chow. I'm the program manager for Freaking Nauman Foundation's Global Innovation Hub in Taipei. So some of you might not know what is Innovation for Democracy Cafe. So please allow me to do some very short introduction. So Innovation for Democracy Cafe is a program that initiated by our office since 2021. And the goal behind it is we want to allow people to understand how we can use technology and innovation to foster democracy, human rights, and freedom. Of course, in a comfortable way. And also we notice that the best idea always bubble up when you chat with your friend at the cafe. So what are we going to innovate today? Today, we're going to innovate the way of how government build up digital service for everybody. I wonder whether you have such experience. If yes, you can share it in our chat box. You're trying to, when the COVID is still very serious, you try to book a vaccination appointments with the clinic around your community. But in the end, you found the digital system is so difficult to use and you gave up. And for people who are with physical disabilities, it's already so difficult for them to find accessible public facilities. Then you start wondering why there's no one in the government trying to invent an app or digital system to help people in need to find those accessible public facilities. And you also wonder why government keeping using our money, taxpayers' money, to repeatedly build up digital services that is not easy to use or even reinvented the wheels. And actually, these problems can be remedied by the collaborations with civic tech communities and adaptations of public money, public code concepts. For example, our publications, our office has publicized a publication that collecting around 7 cases around the world about the successful cases of collaborations between government and civic tech communities. And Henrietta is one of the authors. And we also publish a guidebook about public money, public code, which we translate languages into a very easy to understand languages. However, although there are so many successful collaborations between civic tech communities and the government in the world, we still found, particularly from the feedback of all our authors, it's still so difficult to sustain such collaborations between government and civic tech communities. And the reason might comes from some governments still think such collaborations cannot coexist with the current bureaucratic system. And so does the concept of public money, public code. And some government even think that such collaboration should only stop at the level of giving grants to the winner of the competition held by the government. So that triggers our curiosity. Is it really that difficult for government to collaborate with civic tech communities? And is it really so difficult to trying to apply the concept of public code to into the government? So that's why today we're gonna discuss these questions with our expert today. So firstly, we have invited Ms. Rosalind Liu. She is the Assistant Analyst of Taiwan's Ministry of Digital Affairs, MODA, and she will introduce us the 2 policy initiatives from MODA. The first one is Civic Tech Experimental Field and Code.gov.tw. So the 2 initiatives aim to solve the problems I just mentioned, and we're so happy to have you here, Rosalind.
Thank you so much, Yawei, for introducing me. So you will introduce another
sure.
speaker. Okay,
yeah. And yes, just like Rosalind said, we also invited Dr. Henrietta Lita. She is one of the author of our Civic Tech Handbook, and she is also the managing director of Open Knowledge Foundation in Germany. She has really in-depth analysis and observations about how German government collaborated with civic tech communities in Germany, of course, from the perspective of civil society. And our pleasure to have you here, Jacqueline.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Yahweh.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right. Before we get started, I still want to use a couple of minutes to brief you how we're gonna proceed with the cafe today. So firstly, I will invite the two experts to present their initiatives or the experience for 15 minutes each. And after that, we will open the floor to our audience to ask questions. So for our audience, if you have any questions, please type your questions in the chat box. I will guide the two experts to answer your questions. However, if there's no questions after the end of the presentation from our experts, I will take advantage as the moderator to start asking questions. So I hope it's clear. And if you have any questions, please feel free to type your questions in the chat box. So now, without further ado, let's invite Rosalind to start her presentation. The floor is yours, Rosalind.
Okay, so thank you so much for having me here, Yahweh, and also it's very nice to meet all of you. And I'll just make sure everyone can see the slide, right? Okay, great. So I'm going to share, I'm Rosalind Liu. I'm going to share today how civic tech community have been working with MODA. And I'm just showing case of some of it. We actually have more collaboration with different kinds of civic tech communities. And if we have other opportunity, I'm willing to share it. But today we'll focus on policy code, policy, and also the civic tech experimental field. Okay, so today's agenda will be that we'll have a small introduction on why MODA is doing all this. Oh, by the way, we call Ministry of Digital Affairs in Taiwan ourselves. We call ourselves MODA. Yeah, and also the second part will be the policy, public code policy, and the third part is civic tech experiment field, and the last but not least, the Code.gov.tw. Okay, so just some introduction about digital democracy. It's our digital affairs. Actually, I'm not under a department called Democracy Network. Our purpose is to identify the digital democracy model of the future. And this is how that people can participate in the democracy in a digital way. So basically, we have 4 sections under this department. One is the civic tech technology, civic tech, and one's plurality. One is international strategy, and the last one is the net zero. So how we identify civic technologies, like any technology can help increase the participation of citizens in the democracy, we will consider is our affairs. Yeah, so we will be working on it. And the plurality is about any new technology, if it is helpful for the social good, then we will also try to pursue and see how we can play a bigger role in this part. And international strategy, because we highly believe that the world is getting more connected. So and also the digital democracy might have a cross-border concept. So that's why we are hoping to engage with the world. So this is how international strategy works. And also the net zero. To be honest, the power of digital is actually quite impactful, but we also noticed that it is causing some ecology problems. So that's why we also focus on net zero. So this is the idea of the department. So while looking for the digital democracy model in the future, we're thinking about a digital democracy in the age of AI, because now this AI is actually what might change the world greatly. And we see, because now people are usually we're talking about how it's important to collect and apply data in the age of AI. But we also notice, this is one of the things we're working on. But what we notice is also the role of the code, the source code. Because in the future, AI or computer or any machine might be creating their own source code, and probably are creating new system themselves. and it's no longer created by human. So we are thinking about the world, like how we can make sure the fairness and also make sure the code is or what the things that machine create is accountability. Also like automated, which is convenient for us. So we kind of put this in this graphic. So the button is the critical element. We usually see code as important as the data in the future. And we want to make sure code is interoperability, has interoperability. So everyone can easily access to the codes that people we have already created this day. And based on this code, we sure to have some infrastructure allows we to share this code, but also to make sure the code created by machine is automatic and also accountable. And last but not least, we're still helping to have this code infrastructure to do something really impact the people. So there's going to be service, and we want to make sure this service is fair. And this is also one of the things people have been talking about AI. AI might be biased, and also it might increase the power of certain authorities. Yeah, so this is also one of the things we're afraid of. Yeah, so this is why we are now also focusing on the code. So we have come out with the public code policy. What is this? What makes this different from the open source policy, to be honest? The open source for us is more focusing on the industrial side. Yeah, the industrial hoping to increase the commercial benefit or improvement of general industrial benefits. So they're hoping to share their code and come up with new product or new service. But for public code, we are emphasizing on those service or software which is have public effects or public goods. And we hope all this code can be evaluate, review, or use, or like modify, whatever you say, by all the people. Yeah, we mean over the world. So this is how we start this is actually we should start from the government, because the most obvious public code should be the code of government, because this is the most obvious code that have social benefits or is used as a public purpose. And we identify 5 important steps. The first one is like we will have a public code platform on the right side. This is like because we have a lot of agency and ministry within government, like the general big government. And it would be really crazy if you go to certain government to look for their code and go to another government to look. So we want to have just one single platform for it. So you can just search it there. And also we also need a platform for the public code policy. So this is where the policy will be listed. And the second part is the public code empowerment plan, because this is really a new idea. Probably not that new for some of the people, but generally for most of the people, it's quite a new idea. So we definitely need to prepare people for all these ideas. So we have side section, and also we must also do some like grants to kind of like increase people's interest in this, especially industry interest or agencies interest. So they're willing to participate in this, because usually when it's something new, everyone knows like the government is not that willing to try it as soon as possible. They may be willing to try it after a while, but we need some pioneer. So this is about the power empowerment plan. And for sure, we will also have the regulation adjustment and also some guidance for all government agency. At first, we'll start it softly, because we just mentioned about a government can be really conservative sometimes. So we need to start with like giving them guidance, showing them how to do that, and let those pioneer agencies go first and have some good example, and also kind of revise, make sure the guidance is right. Then based on the guidance, we know what regulation or what legislation is needed, and we start to do adjustments. Yeah. And the last but not the least one is the Civic experiment field. It's also giving another topic of today. This part is we really want to show people not just about opening the public open source of the government. We also want to give people a chance to really start participating, how to use the public code, and how can they create their own public code. So this experiment field is like a playground for people really to participate in those code we have released. So I will enter the Civic experiment field part, and this is a picture of the participant of last year. They actually created a really great child care registration system for one of the local government in Taiwan, and we are hoping to make sure more local government to start using it. But we have 2 cases last year, so I'm gonna talk about the other cases today because we don't have that much time. So I'm not so sure if all of you are aware of the dengue fever. Dengue fever is a disease usually happening in the tropical area, which is Taiwan's southern part of Taiwan is also considered the tropical area. And this disease is carried by mosquito. So the mosquito who contain the virus, they will bite you. Once they bite you, then you got the dengue fever, and it can be really painful, no matter it's like a fever or it really make your muscle sore. And if it's really severe, you can cause your death. That's for sure. Yeah, and unfortunately, last year Taiwan had a really severe dengue fever cases in Tainan City, one of the important city of Tainan, southern Taiwan. And when it happens dengue fever, for one thing for sure is like we need to cure the patients. But the other thing is we need to prevent the mosquito to keep biting other people, which create more cases. So what do you have to do? Basically, you have to kill a mosquito. But kill mosquito is just not like you just use your hand to kind of kill one of them. It actually contains a really huge manpower because mosquitoes fly everywhere, and it can fly as high as to 7th floor. So the things, and they can fly a huge range of the way. So every time when we find out a dengue fever patient, we need to really accurately calculate the potential flying field of the mosquito, and then we need to send some chemistry control group to enter the whole field and try to have some chemistry spray to make sure they are all killed. Also at the same time, we need to make sure that in that area there's no other potential container which contain water, because a container with water and under a hot weather can be a great place for mosquito to give birth to their next generation. So this is the things we have to do. And usually the field is quite big. So we will find out one cases, then we probably have to go to 200 or 300 neighborhoods to try to have this chemistry control. And this is obviously operation with what's that called? The public power. So usually we have the right to intervene and enter their house, even though they are not at home, but with this notice in advance. So you can imagine all those public health officers, they have to do first, they have to identify the area with 200 and 300 households, and then post all this notice on their doors. And then they go visit there, spread everything, and then if someone is not at home and we cannot open their door, then we need to come back again. So this is actually a really heavy work with like a lot of man hours. And what make it worse that until next year they do all this with paperwork. So you can imagine like they have to like it's like most crazy things can happen. And also at the same time, because we have 2,000 or 3,000 households, so every time you must have at least 100 people to do one operation. Because some people have to do the chemistry control, some people need to make sure that the container is clean, And some people might record everything, and some people might control the whole operation. But the things like everyone is spread out within like a huge area. So you cannot contact each other because it's impossible to call like 100 people at the same time. So this is like one of the pain point of them. But we have our Civic community partner to enter. They have to create a really easy to use website so they can actually communicate with each other through that website, and also they can just enter all their results on that website. So the people in charge can easily know what is happening on the site, and also they don't have to spend time to digitalize all the paperwork. They can just know right away like how's the situation going and all, and what they have achieved today, and who they have posted notice, who have been cleaned, and who they have to come back in the future. So it makes things much more easy. They actually increase like 20% of efficiency. So I'm going to show you the video of this case, and I'm sorry this is in Chinese, but because I have explained most of the things, so you can probably get some ideas what the video is about. And where I'm just going to show you the image and really have you emphasize with what's happening. I just want to make sure if everyone can hear the sound. Not really? That's okay, then I'll just use the music and just use the English to explain it. Yeah. So let's see, you can see like what's really happening on site. Yeah. So this is one of the image that we're showing. This used to be all the paperwork and they do write down everything, but now they can just easily click the box. So like we can have the message spread. Yeah, this is how they used to do all this work. Like they have prepared so many papers, yeah, and use this on site. And sometimes it's actually quite hard to write things when you are walking around. And you have to digitalize all these things for statistics. Yeah, so there's another crazy work after you have such a huge event. And they just mentioned that they probably have 2 or 3 events a day. And this is the Civic community partners who create all these things. So this is like the backend platform. So the one who is control, they can easily know what's happening on site right now and know the status through this backend. And also they can come back to check the statistics numbers after the event finish. And they are also sharing about what is different from the procurement in the past. Usually when we have a government procurement to develop some digital service, they are actually making something what government is thinking, what people need or what they need. But this is because we are not expert, to be honest. We are probably from different background, not necessarily the right background. So eventually it might come up with the right tools. It might be something what we want, but not something we really need. But the civic tech community actually come in and help really identify what is real needed. This is showing how they might do it. And because they are groups, so they are also, you can just select which group we are in and then just to record things with on the right group. And we also collect and combine different geography data and come out with an easy drawing system. So you can just simply use the computer to draw which area you want to focus on. They will come out with some status like how big is that area and how many people you might need for that area. So they don't have to do all the calculation manually. So basically, this is the idea of this project. If you're interested to finish the film, you can just check it out yourself. Yeah, because we have limited time, so I'm not gonna show the whole process here. Oh. So this is just a brief ideas about how this is how the experiment field works. So at first we will identify the local government partners to see what the local government is looking for the partnership, and we will matchmaking the right team with them and start a collaboration. And because sometimes there's some cultural shocks, not cultural shock, just cultural difference between the government and the civic community. So MODA will act as the middle person. So we will help two sides to communicate and work together. And eventually we reach the result part. And actually what surprised me more about the project is not about how we have achieved, like develop some cool stuff. It's actually about the cultural change within the government, because they become more willing to try new things. And also they start thinking is about like how we can digitize all this, how can we make things easier, how can we make these things easier for people or attractive for people. And it's actually starting some kind of enlighten the public servant in local government. And I think this is a more valuable part of this experiment field. Yeah. So I have finished like most of the topic today, and I'm also wanted to show you about the Code.gov.tw, which I've mentioned in the beginning of when I was introducing the public code policy. This is the one single platform we just mentioned about, and actually just as Yahweh mentioned, we just launched it today, this morning in MODA. So this is like a new to the whole world. So this is called Code.gov.tw. Yeah, I will just show you. So basically, this is the website, and we will have the English probably in the lab this year, December of this year or next year. We will definitely come out with the English website to show with our international friends. And you can just see like we give you the option to know what public code is because it's still new to the people, and we also give you some example of how it works, and also some Q&A to make sure people can know more about it. And also we show like the future plan, like how we're gonna implement all this. We also share the concept with all other people or anyone interested. And this is the main part. You can choose what feature you are looking for public code, or which ministry or which agency you are looking for, and or which technology language you are interested in. And you can just enter any one, like this one. If lucky enough, because not everyone you will have a demo site, so you might know how it looks like. Yeah, and also here you will find all the code here. Yeah, you can just easily download it or do whatever you want. And also we have some introduction to the specific public code you choose, like how it looks like, just in texture, and the description, the feature content, the language, and what kind of what's that code? Anyway, just some review about it, and also license. And if you have questions, who you can contact. So this is the structure of the Code.gov.tw. Yeah. So basically, what we want to do is definitely like to set the foundation for the future democracy, but also at the same time, we also kind of invite industry and also all the people to become one of the part of the digital resilience. They help us also to kind of strengthen the digital resilience of Taiwan. And eventually, we are hoping this participation can help to reach the social inclusiveness, emergence management, and also industrial development. Okay, so this is my sharing today. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Rosalind. I think you really provide not just in the introduction of these two policy initiatives, but you also give a lot of the feedback and your experience about what's the difference between emphasizing open source and public code, and why it's so important to bring up the idea of public code, because that gives us more of the flavor for the to open the court for public goods. And I also appreciate that you mentioned that your policy is not just for invented cool digital solutions. Your policy also pushes the change of culture in public sectors. The public servants are not so afraid of trying new method or trying the way of digitalize their work. So I think I also agree that that's the most precious part of your work. So thank you so much for sharing all this with us, Rosalind. So now also thank you for your patience, Henrietta, and we just can't wait to hear from you to take us travel from Taiwan to Germany to get to know the model of the German government from your perspective from civil society. The floor is yours, Henrietta.
Yes, thank you again for the invitation and this opportunity. And Rosalind, what you said gives me hope for the German case. It sounds really innovative and nice. And let me see if I can get my slides to start. Okay, I'm from Open Knowledge Foundation Germany, which is a civic tech or a civil society organization. So it's more or less the other side of the coin, but also, of course, a different context. And I've tried very hard to think of a very successful example of a collaboration between the two entities, but it is not that easy. So, and you will see during my presentation why this is the case. But first of all, let me start very briefly what we do, because we are a very practical and operative organization, not a service provider for government or for society, but more or less, on the one hand, a watchdog organization looking very, very carefully how government is doing things in the digital world, and if regulation is serving the public good, and if also the benefits are serving the public good, and not only a market that is somehow defined by an economic sphere. But on the other hand, beside being a watchdog, it's also very important for us to show to the public very practically what the digital age can deliver for citizens or for human beings in general. Not just talk about it, but to try to give a little bit more flesh to the creativity and the chaotic, but also very creative character of the digital age. So we started with different programs. How the digital age and tools can make your life better, and also activate you as a citizen, or activate your rights as being a citizen or an inhabitant of a specific country or entity, even in Europe. So, for example, I'm not going through, but we are running Germany's only open source funding program, the Prototype Fund, showcasing very nice cases of how open source software can deliver something else than just being a duplicate to Microsoft Office and do the same services, but also, it gives you more impact, like translations, or giving you a better sense of how can you access government services when you have disabilities, or could software for hearing devices become open source, for example. So a lot of topics can be dealt with open source software, and we try to showcase every year very nice examples to give people more trust in open source, since this is something that Germany has not been active field in the recent years. Another thing is, of course, building digital literacy for young people. So we try to have workshops with young people throughout the whole country to not only to foster their skill set in terms of programming languages, but more the holistic thing of how you think about the internet, how you can make use of your skills of Python, of different stuff, to be creative, to be critical, to find something that you, your classmates, your community can profit of, or that can make your life better. So it's more this make the world a better place with coding, and also have fun, of course, since you're young people. And the last I want to mention is the Ask the State. So we programmed a platform which makes it very, very easy for people to file freedom of information requests. Since in Germany, you need to have a law degree, at least one or perhaps two, to do this regularly. And with our software, you can do it with a click, of course. So this is what we do. But now we're talking about government and civic tech, and in the German context. And I start with two very unfair pictures. So this is the first picture I give you. And if you look at the picture, perhaps you can ask yourself how you feel about what you see, and if this picture gives you a feeling of openness, of willingness to cooperate with people or actors or organizations that are not part of the entity, or well, what else this could symbolize. And this is the German Federal Ministry of the Interior. This is the ministry that is responsible for government modernization and general the digital transformation of government services in Germany. And as you can see, and what I want to symbolize with this picture is that the German bureaucracy is also, I think, globally known to be very top-down, to be very black boxy, and have a highly functional logic with very strong inner efficiency and complicated procedures, the German way, but it is not very open. Yes. So on the other hand, and in another world, in a completely different other world, is a picture of a civic tech community summit of one of our programs of the Code for Germany program. And of course, here the same question: how do you feel about this picture? Is it more open in your regard? Is it different from the other one? And how does it make you feel? And of course, I know this is an unfair selection, but it is a kind of a glimpse of reality in Germany. So Germany has a very rich and vibrant civic tech community with lots of smiling faces, and goes back to 2 decades ago with pirate parties and chaos computer clubs. So there's lots of movement also with the open government partnership that came later. So the movement started with very strong also political motives. It was not too much about providing services to citizens, but more about accountability and transparency. And so the community was striving for higher accountability of government activity through open data, through the means of digital tools, and through increased opportunities for citizens to participate through digital and open source tools that was provided by civic tech technology. So when you see those two pictures, of course, the quintessence is that it has never been easy to collaborate between the two in the German context. And also the relationship has been and still is complicated. The examples of successful collaboration are very limited and very regionalized, or even in a local community context. But on a federal level, I don't think there's much of a good working structure or routine of coming together in a regular way and exchanging ideas. But there are some, of course. But government has been more open through the years, and of course, civic tech communities and public administration diversified their strategies a little bit more towards cooperative approaches. Why, you might ask? Perhaps, and I can only speculate, because both sides realize that an exchange can be productive or is even necessary to achieve one's goals. Since most of the time, I mean, on the one hand, government has not been successful in providing good, productive and user-friendly services. And on the other hand, civic tech has not succeeded in scaling up their solutions and finding ways to make their ideas more sustainable, but have been stuck in one platform, one tool being used by 100 people, but not by 1 million people. So the urge to come together was growing. And in my analysis, and this is also in the case study that I wrote in the book, that I see 3 different engagement strategies that I will very briefly present to you. And the first and the most common in Germany is the funding strategy towards civic tech communities. Over the last course of the decade, hackathons, and especially hackathon events, found their way into the mainstream in Germany. Yes, that late, and they are still very popular. And a plethora of hackathon events was organized nationwide in Germany. The biggest was during the COVID-19 pandemic. And many have been funded by governments on the state or the federal level. And I think the authorities increasingly fulfilled the role of funding partners of hackathons, whereas civic tech activists developed software prototypes in this. And I think in those kind of event-centered funding structures, both sides were intrigued by, on the one hand, the creativity and the innovation and the event character. And civic tech activists also liked the idea of being able to demonstrate directly to the government what good solutions they could offer. But on the other hand, frustration grew, since after the event, nothing more came out of it. So the results were most of the time not being transferred to a different stage or being transferred into a regular product. Internalization is a more recent phenomenon. Governmental agencies have started to initiate their own units for digital transformation, being more agile, being more modern, either within their existing structures or as new entities with public funding. And while the focus areas differ, those units have the same approach. They create innovation and develop better solutions by imitating approaches from civic tech and also from startup communities. So those units have more room for creativity, for exploration of new ideas within the administration. And they often share the idea of being open to external input and inviting other actors to engage. And actually, many people from civic tech start to work in those internal innovation agencies. But also here, the problem is that those agencies on those labs or units often have good ideas and good people, but they do not connect with the regular departments of the ministries. So they have to struggle too to get their ideas into the regular system. And the third one, the third approach, and I didn't call it collaboration because it is not a collaboration, but it is a cooperation, is formal and informal structures of asking for input. And most of the time, when Germany is forced by multilateral treaties to engage with different stakeholders, they do it. They invite civic tech and other civil society actors to participate in hearings and workshops and groups because they have to. And then they write reports. And most of the time, it's highly formalized and not very creative, but at least you get the people from different areas to sit around one table. But an open government partnership is one of those examples where you have to sit together and you write a report together. But in my opinion, being forced to do this and not being very open to a very open and free exchange of ideas, but to be forced into this very formalized structure is not giving enough room to really build trust. And German authorities also collect input from civic tech communities. This started in recent years to become a big thing. But beyond asking for input and asking for expertise, it is not a very mutual relationship, right? So I and other organizations are being invited to hearings, to comments, to discussion forums. But when it comes to formulating policies, implementing tools, and really going into the structure, civic tech actors do not take a vote or are not considered to be part of the structure. It is more grabbing some ideas and then thank you and goodbye. So this is not very fruitful. And I think at the moment, although there is some points of contact, the frustration has grown a lot since the urge on both sides to come together and to look for good solutions for societal problems is really high. So what should we do? I think collaboration with external actors has never come easy in the German context, but probably worldwide. And therefore, state actors in the German context have felt more comfortable taking the role of funders of activities, of course, since then they are not obliged to implement the results. They just give money to nice prototypes, but that's it. While the appreciation of the funding role is generally high within the civic tech communities, there's also growing frustration among communities about the narrow focus on developing ideas and prototypes without ever implementing or sustaining those ideas in the long run. So what should we do? I like this title. It's a movie, All Creatures Welcome. It's a documentary film by Sandra Trostel of a couple of years ago about the Chaos Computer Club's idea. And it puts in a nutshell what it takes to collaborate, I think. Be open-minded about things, about people, about procedures that you are not familiar to, and be respectful and try to learn. And if you want to put it in words, it's like this openness and willingness to learn, trust, respect. And also, I think this is very important, a thriving civic tech ecosystem needs a very strong civil society. And so sometimes collaboration is not the answer and funding is not a strategy, but it's more this feeling of you need a strong and very independent, very critical civil society that needs to have a room to create own ideas, and then something very creative will happen. And organizations will then have the capacity to create, to develop, and even to maintain tech tools to include data protection, cybersecurity, bug fixes, and everything else. So when civil society is struggling and has not enough spaces for democratic engagement and are shrinking actors, it is very hard to establish a functioning civic tech ecosystem for more transparency, accountability, and participation. So sometimes collaboration needs to be enforced with openness and trust, and sometimes it is just more productive to foster the civil society as such, but not look into how can we collaborate. Thank you this far, and I'm very happy to take questions.
Thank you so much, Henriette. I think I really admire how energetic the civic tech communities in Germany is, and I think they did wonderful work. And I also think that you mentioned a very important point is that even when government wants to collaborate with civic tech communities, the both sides, particularly the civic tech communities, they have to be at the equal position. And if because it has to be equal, then you can call it a collaborations, and then we can ensure the product comes out that really fits the need of the people. So thank you very much for sharing your observations. That is really helpful. So now we haven't seen any questions from the chat box, so I'll just take advantage as moderator to ask questions for both of you. I firstly have a question for Rosalind. Congratulations today. Your ministry successfully launched the Code.gov.tw the public code websites. And but we are more curious to see because it seems like you have very successful experience of gather those local government on board when you implement the civic tech experimental field. But now we have a question. We want to know how do you encourage those local governments, or it can be not just local government, it can be also other government agency in the central government or everywhere in Taiwan. How do you encourage them to use the code that was stored by on the public code database, the public code website? How do you encourage government staff to use it?
Thanks for the question. I won't say we had a really, had a really successful experience to have the government on board last year. In fact, last year we didn't start with the local government side. We actually recruit the civic tech community team first, and then we help them to find the correspondent partners in the government. This is what actually happened last year. And actually, the first the Dutch Fever team I just introduced, at first they are not selected, and it is another team selected at first, but it didn't work out really well. So we have the Dutch Fever team to come out again and then to work together. But what happened is that actually after we have 2 successful cases last year, and we actually create events, we invite people from officers from different local governments and to share these 2 successful cases. And they start to aware that actually all these things can help increase efficiency, or actually some of the cases actually hit their pain points. So they start to think about why not we participate. So this year we changed our method. We actually first contact with all 22 local governments of Taiwan, and half of them are interested in participate in this events. So we actually have to select. We are now still in the selection process to select which 2 city government we would like to work with, because we actually have a capacity limit. We cannot work with so many local government and civic community teams. So it is something really take a lot of time and effort. So we still will focus on 2 cases this year only. But right now we can see a really optimistic change in the attitude of the local governments. This is what we are happy with. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Rosalind, for describing the process. I think it's very meaningful to everybody to know that it's not like you launch the policy and everything would just goes really well and have a happy ending. You still need a lot of adjustments. You still need a lot of changes during the process that you implement the policy. So thank you so much for sharing with this very practical experience, Rosalind. So now I see a question from our audience. It's from Patricia. She say for Henrietta, the separations of civil society actors and the government, is it specifically so in the digital area only, or does it also exist in other spheres in Germany? For example, immigrant issues, social inclusion, etc. Do other civil society organizations also face the same issue? Here in Malaysia, we also have this separation and distance between government and civil society. So, Henrietta, do you mind answer these questions?
Yes, thank you for this question. I think it is a general characteristic in Germany. It's not only for the digital topics, but it's a general split between the spheres of civil society and government, since government is a very closed box and has been trained for the last 100 or even 150 years to do their thing and not to look outside of the box, and there's no, I mean, government officials are not used to feedback stuff. They get orders, they implement policies, they provide services, but there's no channels and no use of those modern methods like iteration, trial and error, trying things, getting feedback, or focus groups, trying, is this really a problem? Who can we ask? If we want to include people with disabilities, how do we do this? Oh, we could invite them and ask them for their feedback. They don't do it. They ask professional agencies to write a study, and then they implement the recommendations from the study. So it's very, very unusual when civil society actors come and say, look, we are here, we have ideas, we do not want to sell anything, we just want to talk and give you feedback on the source code, on the user friendliness, on how ways to make the product even better. And this, for government officials, is very suspicious. Like, how can you come? How do you not want to sell anything? Why do you come? And this is something we need to learn from scratch. But it is very, very hard. The usual way is become a lobbyist, an advocate for something, and offering money and offering legislation help. This is something Germany has, of course, as every country in the world has experience in. But this way of, there's people who also have expertise, but they do not want to sell it. They just want to offer it and offer the space to discuss, is something that government has problems with. And also with the fact that, oh no, this is what you offer, this is too cheap. This is, I mean, how can you do this on a voluntary basis? This cannot be a good product, because this professional vendor, he sold me the product for 1 million euros. This must be a good product. How can you be able to do this for 20,000 euros? It's like, perhaps what you bought is not the best thing. So this is something that we need to change, especially since in Germany, the population is becoming older and older, and in the administration, many people will go on retirement in the next 5 to 10 years, and there's not much people who come afterwards. So it's not, I mean, we do not have the time and the personnel resources to just to figure out everything on your own in the structures. You need to find good allies to solve the problems and to outsource trusted. I mean, with trust, you can outsource ideas, but if you only rely on professional like business consultants, of course, they will always try to find ways to sell their products. And this is something we really try from the civil society, to become this trusted allies that, like, you can come to us, you can ask us questions, we can be the sounding board. We do not want to sell our products, but we can look for this common good feature, like, is it a good product? And this is lots of conversations and talks. Long answer.
Yeah, that's good answer. I think I really like your answer, Henriette. So I think you also pointed out the reason why we cannot treat the way of building public digital services just using the traditional way. Like the government has a need, then they issue the invitation for public procurement, and then the vendor got the bid, then it did that. But it sounds logical and legal to the government, but in this process, the people, the citizen, has zero chance to participate in the process. And even that the government claim that they invite experts in the selection committee, but still, people who need that is still not involved in the process. So I think that's very important that you mentioned that people with expertise and they want to, they even being willing to provide it for free, why not give them the chance to contribute? And also, yeah, so I think the purpose of the cafe today is to trying to remind everybody, we need to think about a new way to diversify the approach for building public digital services, because if we don't think about it, then we're wasting the beauty and wisdom of democracy, which is everybody get a voice and everybody get a chance to contribute their talents or contribute their different views toward one thing. And if we didn't think of it, and we are wasting everybody's talents, and we were wasting the chance of improving any public digital services. So thank you for mentioning that point, Hayeta. Now we see more questions from our audience. So there's one question from Mr. Pawan Xian. He said, thanks for the presentations. I was wondering if there are any agencies and initiatives in Taiwan looking, supporting, and working on foundational open source software technologies, for example, libraries, components, and implementations that also rely on in public and civic tech products. That's our focus at Sovereign Tech Found. Rosalind, I think this is a question for you. Would you like to answer?
Okay, so I'm not sure if I will answer first, and you can let me know if I interpret your answer question properly. So at first, I will definitely start with the Code.gov.tw. If you are interested in any code on our website, you can just go research it or study it or just use it for sure. And if any question, you can just contact us. We all have email up there. So this might be the most quick way to kind of get in touch with MODA if you want. Yeah, and we don't have like English version right now, but because you're talking about Malaysia, so I guess you can probably understand a little bit about the Mandarin Charlie, even though we are using traditional Mandarin, not the simplified one. And if you really want to have some proper organization or group to work with other than MODA, then definitely I would suggest first is OCF, which is the Open Culture Foundation. There are kind of how to say the different open source communities of the Taiwan. They funded this organization like 20 years ago. So they have basically all the connection with all the open source community in Taiwan. So you can just contact them. But the other one is Gov0, which is quite, I guess it's one of the most famous civic tech community around the world. And both communities, both. The organization and community I just mentioned, I guess they are now really busy with the upcoming Gov0 Summit, which will happen in this weekend. It's like a big event because Gov0 community, they will have a summit once every 2 years. And this year happened to be that year. So a lot of people, especially from Asia, the civic tech professionals will gather this weekend in Taiwan and share about what they have been achieved and what they are working on at this point. I think it would be a great event if you are interested to join because Malaysia is not far away. So, and this is free to attend. The event is free to attend. So if you're really interesting and available weekend and also the budget is okay for you, so you can probably come join us and you can find out a lot of network out there. And I guess these three already can help you to find all the specific entry area for you. Yeah, I hope I answered your question. Yes.
Okay. So thank you, Rosalind. And now we have more questions from our audience. I think we can continue this cafe until 6 p.m. Taiwan time. All right. I will prioritize the question from the audience who haven't asked the question yet. So next, I will take the question from Maria. She asked, dear speakers, how would you evaluate on the current relationship between civil tech society and your government for improving democracy practically among excellent, fine, or not good? I think I will appoint Henrietta to answer this question. Yeah.
It's a very broad question and a very good question, of course. It's hard to answer very broadly, and I mean, in my presentation, I you get the feeling that nothing much is happening in Germany. But of course, the government is trying, and there's lots of actors who have understood that it's very necessary to change procedures to become more open and to make room for innovative actors. But it is very hard to overcome those status quo oriented bureaucracies that are so hard to change. Even if you have a good idea, even if you have good actors, it takes so much time and so much convincing power and so many different components to make it a successful project, and budget and leadership backing. And so it's very tough to say this is good or this is not good. I think most important for us here in Germany is, of course, to have a strong civil society that is very critical and also uses its power as watchdog, but also as like being an expert in digital transformation, to make sure that especially digital transformation is focusing on democratization, on giving access and participation rights to people, on focus on minorities and all the things that the big tech companies do not provide. They don't care about the margins, what is not market relevant and not profitable. So I think government needs to focus on these areas, and civil society needs to be strong and competent to look into what is not going well. And if this friendly criticism is taken on by governments, I think this can be very productive, and then collaboration might be the next step. But especially in Germany, we are not that far. We are in this mode of criticizing, trying to improve, and then we need the next booster to become very productive together.
Thank you so much for your answer, Henrietta. And I think now we are a bit of running out of time, but I still want to seize the last few minutes. So I wonder whether, Henrietta, do you have any feedback for Rosalind, or Rosalind, do you have any question to Henrietta?
Currently no, but I would like to contact Harriet for a future cooperation, because to be honest, this year we are kind of expanding the Civic experimental field further. So we are hoping to have Civic communities from all the country to join our Civic experimental field. This is actually what we're looking forward. So we are actually hoping if your organization or any civic tech communities are interested in to help Taiwan improve or create new digital service, we hope to have some expert to be recommended by your organization or civic community. Then they can probably lead some teams here and start doing things together. And we think we will have a stronger benefit influence in the world and showing the world how this model works in the future. So I will probably send you an email, and anyone in this event, if you are interested, we're also open to participants. We'll start the recruitment in May. So if you're interested, you can probably start tracking on our social media or our website. And also we will definitely post things to some of the famous Civic community channels. So you can also find the information there. Yeah.
This sounds great, and thanks for this announcement. And one of my colleagues is also at the Gov0 Summit, so I think there's already a good connection, and this we might profit from it. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So I just want to take Rosalind's invitation as a way to show the benefits of adopting open source and public money, public code in your country. The benefit is not just gathering all the talented people to contribute to your public digital service in your own country. If you adopt open code, open source, public code, it's also possible that the experts and talents in the international society can also contribute to contribute their talents and expertise to improve the digital service in your country. I think that's also the power of open source and public money, public code. Yeah. So now, because of time limitation, I think we have to conclude this cafe. Once again, thank you, Rosalind, and thank you, Henrietta, to contribute your experience and observations. I think from the chat room, you can see many of our friends appreciate what you have been sharing. We hope to see you in the future cafe. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.